I grew up in Isan, right? And I grew up like rural in the country. Once I started school, they're like, no, no, you can't speak Isan in school. When you're in school, we want you to speak Thai, like main Thai. สวัสดีครับผมชื่อคริสโตเฟอร์เชฟนะครับผมก็อยู่นี่แต่โดนแล้วครับผมก็มาตั้งแต่ประมาณ8 ขวบ In the back part there was Isan, by the way.
Do you view yourself as Thai or do you see yourself as Australian Farang, or how do you view yourself?
What's the story, everybody? Pete here from Thairish Times. Hope you're doing well. It's very rare that you meet a foreign kid who grew up in a small village in eastern Thailand. And that's exactly what we have for you today. My guest, his name is Chris, and he's just as much Thai as he is Australian. Here's a quick clip of him speaking Thai with the legendary Paddy Jenkins from the channel Thai Talk with Paddy.
พอดีเมื่อกี้ผมกำลังเดินแล้วผมเดินผ่านพอดีก็แบบเอ๊ะไทยทอไทยทอนี่ว่าเดี๋ยวเข้าไปร่วมแจมกล้องสักหน่อย
He speaks Thai to an exceptional level, doesn't he? We're going to get into that today and his whole life story. So let's get straight into it. Oh, just before I forget, links to Chris's social media as well down in the description box. If you liked the video, do me a favor, hit the like button, leave me a comment. I always want to know what you think of the videos, and then share it if you can. Right, let's get it straight over and get into it.
I'm from Australia. My mum's English. My mum's from England, dad's from New Zealand. I was born in Australia, and then at the age of 8, I came here. I came to Thailand before that as like a holiday with dad. But at the age of 8, I ended up moving here. It was supposed the plan was my dad was going to be here for about a year, but then he ended up staying. I ended up staying with him. I went to like a government school.
Which part of Thailand was it?
Well, there was a little bit of time in like Bangkok and Chonburi, but then eventually I moved down with my dad to Udon Thani, which is like northeast Isan.
And you were 8 years old and you went to a government school in Isan, Udon Thani.
When I was in Udon Thani, it was a private school, but it was like still like all spoken in Thai and everything. It was actually a Catholic school. It's called Mani Pitak. It was in Udon Thani. It was when I was in grade like 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 7, 8, 9 was when I went into a government school.
Okay, so I'm not familiar. Grade 7, 8, 9. Is that how old are you then when you were in government
7,
school?
8, 9. You're like 13, 14, 15.
Okay, so here you are, this Australian kid going over to Thailand. Now, I'd imagine because you're so young, did you pick up the language straight away or did it take time?
I grew up in Isan, right? And I grew up like rural in the country. That's where my dad went and like built a house. So in the beginning, I wasn't going to school. I was just having like playing with the kids in the village, going around doing stuff that village kids would do. And I started with Isan before Thai, but Isan I acquired it just through I don't know how. I know the theory behind it because I do study educational psychology. So a kid, if you pop a kid into a surrounding environment that is that people are using the language, the kid is over time is going to connect 1 and 2 and like, okay, so they use that word when they do this obviously means this and that. So I can't explain fully how I learned Isan, but I acquired it, and then I went and learned Thai when I was actually in school, because once I started school, they're like, no, you can't speak Isan in school. When you're in school, we want you to speak Thai, like main Thai, so that every kid learns the main Thai. Otherwise they just speak Isan all their life. And then that was when I started, learning how to read, write, and speaking like the main dialect of Thai, which is the central dialect. Isan was acquired. Thai was acquired and learned, kind of more school involved. But Isan, there was no school involved, is what I'm trying to say.
And I saw an interview that you did where you said you went from the bottom of the class one year to like the top the next year.
Second, I was just a little bit off the top, but yeah, I picked up the language pretty quick for someone that didn't know how to read and write and all that. And I've always, like, I'm not trying to be full of myself, but I've always kind of been like my friends' proofreaders. Like my Thai is usually like my spelling and writing and reading and all that is better than a lot of my Thai peers. I've kind of always had this little knack towards languages. I find it a bit easy, I guess.
What was your life like in Isan? So there are not many foreign kids in Bangkok, but there are foreign kids in Bangkok. But I imagine in Udon Thani, it's It's rare to see blonde hair, blue eyes kid walking around.
I think the fact that I could speak Isan and Thai was more what pulled them in. The fact that I'm white and I could speak the language did make me kind of like everyone knew me wherever I went. Like I could just hang around and like Isan culture is very friendly. Everyone's very friendly with each other. So like I was the kid that could just be anywhere and people would know, and I'd be able to talk to other people and all that. It's just like they were intrigued by, or here's this white kid that's speaking fluent Isan, and they always assumed I'm like half, but I'm not.
I bet you had a few girlfriends in your time.
Of course, through time, yeah.
But as a school kid, imagine like you're very unique compared to all the other kids, and you speak the language.
Well, with kids, they don't, racial and skin color isn't really that much of a thing. So when they just basically saw me as another Thai friend after a while. Like it wasn't it wasn't any special treat. Maybe by the teachers because the teachers have like a mentality, but the kids they just saw me as another peer in class that could speak Thai and English.
So how many years have you spent in Australia, and how many years have you spent in Thailand?
I've actually spent probably half my life here and half my life there. Actually, maybe even a little bit longer in Australia. So about 16 years in Australia, 14 years in Thailand. I moved here 21 years ago, but over the 21 years, I've been back to Australia a couple of times. One during junior high, I went back for a year, and then I went back for high school, and then I went back again in my 20s, and I recently went back again at the start of COVID for another 3 years. So all in all, I probably spent 16 years in Australia and 14 years in Thailand.
How do you feel when you go back? Do you view yourself as Thai, or do you see yourself as Australian Farang, or how do you view yourself?
That's a hard question. I don't know. I'm just me. I'm a mix of two cultures. Like, am I fully Asian? No, in the way I behave and everything, probably not. Am I fully Western in the way I behave? No. I've just kind of molded the two cultures and taken the bits that I think are an asset and left the liabilities, and like combined the two cultures and kind of turned it into who I am, who I want to be.
When you go back to Australia, do you feel a little bit like an outsider, or do you just merge back into that culture again?
I don't feel like an outsider. I've always got along with people quite well. I'm quite a sociable person once I get talking. I'm not really negative. I don't put up barriers or walls. Like I don't mind a conversation. So I don't have trouble fitting in. And I think partly because, I was in the entertainment industry for 10 years. I was a singer. I like being sociable is kind of one of the things I've had to have throughout my life in Thailand. But I don't see myself as an outsider. Do I behave like when I went back to Australia? Do I behave differently? According to people around me, they say, "Well, you don't behave like an Australian, mate. But you're kind of Asian, but you're not."
What would they say? Like, what kind of examples would they say you're not behaving like an Australian?
One example that my brother absolutely hates is like I'll just walk off, man, no goodbye, or I'll just pop up, no, don't say hi or anything. He calls me a ninja, because that is kind of sometimes like you just kind of walk off here. We're not as big and at saying like hello and goodbyes in Thailand as we would be in Australia, which is practically you say hello and goodbye to everyone. Australians love a chat, not so much as in an Asian culture. So I guess I seem like very introverted to Australians, perhaps.
Let's talk about the entertainment industry. What were you doing in Thailand in the entertainment industry?
I went on this show. It was called The Star. It's like a singing reality TV show. If you pass, you like sing in a competition for weeks on end, and you stay in this house, and it's kind of reality as well. So it was called The Star. I was on year 9. I ended up getting into that and ended up signing a contract with Grammy, Exact, which is a branch in Grammy. Grammy's like the tree. And so that kind of took me into the entertainment industry because I ended up getting into like the last 8 people. So then I started getting into some movies. Then that pulled me into the acting part. I got into advertisements and like soap opera TV shows and that. Um, yeah, so that was kind of what I was doing for a long while, and then so I went back. COVID happened. I got stuck in Australia. I'm back again, and I haven't really gone back to that life. If someone was like, "I got a role for you in a movie," and I like the role, then I'd be like, "Sure, I'll take it." But I'm much more choosy on what I do in the entertainment industry, is because I enjoy it, but I don't enjoy it that much to the point that I want to make a living and like go on that path. I'm more of a teacher at heart, really, and like I'd rather do seminars. I like to talk. I like to uh, teach people things. I guess whether it's language or mentality or just to give advice, just whatever. I'm very into psychology and all that kind of stuff.
So what are you doing now then? Are you working in Bangkok or what's the story?
Let's just say I'm doing online teaching.
Okay. All right, no worries. And then do you see yourself living in Thailand forever? Could you see that's the long-term plan now that you've gone back?
I see myself making both Australia and Thailand home. Like they're both going to be kind of permanent. Like I want to invest in both these countries. Eventually, I want to have assets and real estate in that in Australia. I also want to have that in Thailand. So, um, will I be involved with Thailand for all my life? Would be the better question. I think yes, I will definitely be involved with Thailand for the rest of my life because my family also at home in Sarakam we have like a dairy farm. So that's growing and growing, and eventually one day I'll probably have to. I already am helping, but I'll have to take on even more workload on that because it's the family business. Um, Dad and stepmom they've put a lot of effort into making that, so I wouldn't let it just go to waste. So yeah, I'll always probably be involved with Thailand, and because I have so much family in Australia, I'd always like to keep myself involved there as well.
Are you a Thai citizen?
Nah. The it just seems complicated to get it. So at one point I wanted it, but then because they make it so complicated, I'm like, well, does it matter if I don't have it? I can still. It doesn't really make a difference. If I want to buy property, I'll buy it in my little brother's name. He's half Thai.
Okay, so at least you have that family
Yeah.
connection. My wife said the same thing as well. When she speaks English, she feels like she has a different personality than when she's speaking Thai. Do you feel the same?
Definitely. Definitely. I'm three different people within the three different languages: Lao, Thai, and English. When I speak English, I'm more of a serious, logical kind of minded. When I speak Thai, it's kind of still serious, but it's a bit more playful, a bit more. Yeah, well, playful is the best word to use. And when I speak Isan, it's kind of like I'm a kid again. Probably because I used Isan when I was a kid the most. That's how my brain was wired at the time.
Can you introduce yourself in Thai just so I hear the accent?
สวัสดีครับผมชื่อคริสโตเฟอร์เชฟนะครับผมก็อยู่นี่แต่โดนแล้วครับผมก็มาตั้งแต่ประมาณ8 ขวบ In the back part there was Isan by the way ครับผมก็คิดว่าสิอยู่ไปตลอดชีวิตแหละครับผมครับก็คิดว่าคงจะอยู่ตลอดชีวิตครับ I reckon I'll be here all my life.
Wow. King Mac. That's perfect, man. The accent, you sound like a Thai man.
I get that a lot. They say if I didn't see your face or if I was talking to you on the phone, I just think you're Thai. So I take pride in that. It's like that's a very big compliment for me. Because usually it's not impossible, but it's near impossible to have the accent like spot on as a native. I think I got here just in time for that to achieve that. I was just young enough to achieve it.
What is the reaction to Thai people when they see you? They just assume, okay, this guy is a white guy, Farang, and then you just open your mouth and you hit them with the crisp, perfect accent.
There's mixed reactions. Some of them like give me like a look like they just heard a ghost. Like what? They wait for me to say it again. Some of them just outright surprised, like what? How do you speak Thai? And it's a great conversation starter. It's been a massive icebreaker all my life. That if I'm going to say what one of the good things about speaking the language is like everyone really does want to talk to you because immediately they have this question in their mind like, why is this dude speaking absolute Thai? He's got blue eyes and everything. Yeah, so the reaction's always been pretty fun, and I always try to have fun with it. Sometimes though, these days I must say, like I I pretend that I don't understand or speak Thai and I just speak English. Sometimes I like to just listen in on people and just like, so I just pretend like I don't know what's happening. I don't know.
You must have got people like gossiping about you. You noticed, obviously.
It's usually never anything bad. Like there's been a couple of times where they've been like, it's like, hey, that's not nice. I'll just say to them in Thai. It's for me as someone who likes to like read people watching and all that. To me, like when I don't speak Thai and I can just listen in on real, like sincere conversations, it's like I get a glimpse into like how Thai people are, the type of conversations they have. Like when you act ignorant and you like act as if you don't understand something, then they become way more comfortable being themselves around you, I guess.
Do you think initially that they're a bit standoffish because you're non-Thai?
Well, it depends on the person, doesn't it? Um, I'm sure every Thai person had, like most Thai people, have had different experiences towards Westerners or like Caucasians. That kind of paints a picture. Like if you go to touristy place where people see a lot of drunk foreigners, then they're going to be kind of sick of you and they're going to treat you as such because that's the experience that they've had with you. So yeah, it really depends. Like if you go to places where there's barely any foreigners, then people are usually much nicer because they assume the best of you. But as we all know, there's plenty of us like idiots out there too that can like ruin the reputation of others. But that's just how society is. You have nice people and you have idiots, and like that's going to be the same anywhere you go.
Pros and cons, Thai culture versus Western culture.
Okay, Western culture don't mind confrontation, which because sometimes you need a bit of confrontation to push life the way you want it. Thai people don't like confrontation. So as a Westerner, I can use a bit of confrontation, not conflict, not rude, not being, but being assertive, dominate the conversation, dominate what you want, and be assertive. You can tend to get your way a bit more in time. Not with the police. Don't with the police. Because Thai people they tend to not like confrontation. I believe that stems down from in school you don't like they don't want you asking a bunch of questions. Do what you're told. Like when I was in school, I was still getting hit by a stick by the Thai teachers if I did something wrong. So they don't like confrontation. The fact that they can't let out steam, vent that, because they avoid confrontation, they tend to not vent or say something outright that they might want to say. So instead, it turns into gossip. There's a lot of gossip involved in Thai culture, I must say. For when I compare it to say somewhere like Australia, they love to gossip and talk about other people behind their back sometimes. Not everyone, of course. It just to me it just seemed like it's a bit more clear than when I was in Australia. Like people don't really talk about other people's business. We just kind of go about our own business and not really care about what other people are doing. It's a bit the opposite. It's about what everyone else is thinking. I'd say Thai people maybe they care or they put their emotions in other people and other people's stories a bit too much instead of just like don't worry about everyone else. Just do yourself.
I know what you're saying. After 12 years in Thailand, first thing I noticed when I came back to the West is how nobody cares what anyone thinks of them, which is great. I think it's great to not care. Just go about your life and not care about what your neighbors think, anything like that. But it takes a while to get used to that because in Thailand, yeah, people do care a little bit. But then you could argue then on the flip side, the society or let's say groups are stronger. There's a more stronger bond, even in families. There's a stronger bond in Thailand.
Thai people still have a much more tight knit like social structure compared to like the Western, which is good. Um, but I think there needs to be a fine line between caring but not caring too much. Like I think there's like a middle ground that we can walk, a middle path. And I think I believe I've kind of embodied myself that way. Like I've taken the respectful kind of know when to say and what to say, and be kind of in your place of the culture here, and the culture of I'm going to say what I want to do what I want, and I'm going to freaking step on everyone's toes. And I've kind of gone on the middle.
You walked the line.
Yeah, I walked the line.
Chris, it's been a pleasure, man. Best of luck, and maybe we'll do it again in Bangkok face to face.
I'd love to. Whenever you're here, let me know.
All right, cheers, man. Take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Come up. Thank you.